on this computer. Okay, good. Now we're recording. Okay, now we're starting. How are you doing, Camelia? Whoa. Let's start with our recording.
How are you?
Good. I'm ready to
I have
talk about.
watched watched the discussion, girls discussed um the um story recently, and they had so many good points that I would like to discuss with you as well.
Okay.
Um, I was amazed by the idea of Liat, uh, about the roses, what the roses could symbolize
Hmm.
in the story. I have never thought about that actually.
Yeah.
Uh, it was um like I never thought I never like saw the roses like on from this point of view, that they can smell beautifully and look good and look gentle and and fragile
Yeah.
fragile,
Yeah.
but can be really dangerous and can kind of sting because um yeah, and this was a good metaphor for their masters. Um, and I thought about that for a while, for a while.
It's funny that you said the roses thing because like that's also what came up for me when I listened to their clip was about the roses, like the imagery of the roses and the way that like the beauty of a rose. Like a rose is so beautiful when you look at the rose, but you have to be careful when you pick it up and when you touch it, and it could prick you. Um, I also am curious to think about like how a rose is like grown, like how you would grow a rose or in the way that it would look. But as you were saying the word fragile, I don't know if it sounds crazy, but I was like reading something interest like recently about like how to see if somebody's like how somebody has like borderline disorder. And a lot of times people that suffer with those kind of mental illnesses are people that are much more like fragile also, but like they can really explode and like have their thorns out. And like if I was a psychiatrist or something like that, and because she's a character in a story, I can claim it. I can't go around with regular everyday people and decide that I can say they have like borderline disorder. But let's say she has like borderline disorder or some kind of mental thing. And then so she's like
Hmm.
fragile and she's got these thorns and she's ready to explode at the world. And like that's what I got from listening to them. And it was something very interesting.
Right, but actually, roses are fragile, and you have to care about them and care properly to save them. And actually, those peaks, they are created to save them. That's the way they save them. They can hurt someone else, but that is how they stay um, alive and safe.
Well,
Um,
maybe it's like
Probably there was kind, yeah.
maybe it's like what we spoke about earlier, like in our previous video, how you said that she didn't really have any, like she never got married, she never had any kids, she never moved on. It was only about her previous family, and she lived in her home that her family built, but she was alone. So it's like, how can you stay alive? So her way of connecting and building connections was through this unhealthy way, was by doing
Yeah,
evil in the world because she had nothing else. Like she had no other form of that was her way of staying alive was by creating these like
right,
unhealthy connections.
right, right. Yeah, and I would like to discuss Sophie mentioned that her garden was um um in the end, like her how her garden was destroyed. Actually, it is not mentioned in the text. And you know what? I don't think that her garden was destroyed. I think that the idea um or thought or fear she had that something can happen to her roses, and the note she got from the father of, I don't remember his
Mhm.
name. um it could just destroy the fear sometimes is worse than the disaster. when you expect it or you fear it. So here I would disagree. Probably her garden wasn't destroyed at all and nothing happened to roses, but this note could just bring her to some heart attack or anything. What do you think about that?
It's funny that you said that because as they said about the garden, the first thing that popped in my head was like the story of like Bereshit, like in Genesis, like the way that the garden was like destroyed and like the evil snake. And I think about like her letters as like the evil snake, and that being like the metaphor of like what you're talking about, like the fears that we have or like the negative thoughts, the way that like we have a choice to flourish things or to let things die. And that
Mm-hmm.
like I just saw her garden as like a metaphor of like her mind and her heart is just not aligned and connected well, and it's dying or dead
Yeah,
because of her little evil snakes.
they have a point, maybe.
I don't know. That was
Okay,
that was five
well,
minutes. Do you have anything else you want to include?
no, actually, um, that's it. There were 2 points from the Sophia's discussion that had some trigger in me that I wanted to discuss with you.
Okay. Okay, so I'll stop recording.